The hall was vast, carved into the stone of an asteroid so ancient it pulsed with veins of silver light. Across its polished floor, representatives of 27 alien civilizations gathered in tense silence. Each species had come to prove their worth before the Sentinel Corps, the galaxy's most advanced artificial intelligence, said to weigh every trait, every possibility, and every destiny. From this hall, it would choose the one being who would command the coming alliance. A leader for a war none of them fully understood. The aliens towered, glittered, hissed, and pulsed with colors that no human eye had been meant to see. Their warriors shone in ceremonial armor, their diplomats exuded pheromones of command, and their scholars carried the records of entire star empires on crystalline spines. Each delegation whispered with certainty that their champion was the obvious choice. How could it be otherwise? Their species had dominated the stars for millennia. Humanity, by comparison, was new, fragile, barely crawling out of its cradle. And yet, among the giants, stood a lone figure that did not belong. Her boots were scuffed, her dark hair pulled back without care, her uniform standard issue and dull beside the regal displays around her. Captain Alara Vey, human envoy. She had not asked to come. She had not wanted the burden. And yet Earth's coalition had insisted. They had sent her because someone had to stand among the Titans, even if only to be dismissed. The murmurs thickened when she entered. A ripple of laughter rose from the scaled Threx, their tails slapping the floor in amusement. The humans sent a soldier, one of them hissed in their guttural tongue. Do they not know this is a test of destiny, not flesh? The winged Chirali unfurled their radiant feathers, shimmering with arrogance. Perhaps the AI needs entertainment, they trilled. Let the primitive dance before it judges. Alara's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. She had learned long ago that words, when wasted, only deepened the mockery. Instead, she walked forward to the center circle, where a great obsidian pedestal rose. Upon it shimmered the core, a sphere of liquid light, ever shifting, patterns folding into infinity. It had no face, no voice, only presence. Yet the silence it commanded was absolute. The chamber dimmed. One by one, the alien champions stepped forward to state their claim. The Veyari scholars spoke of wisdom carried for 100,000 years, their mind connected to a living archive that held the answers to every question. The Threx warrior boasted of conquests, of blood spilled across 100 systems, strength beyond measure. The Chirali orator's voice sang with harmony, weaving promises of unity so beautiful that even rivals blinked in awe. Each time, the core pulsed, threads of light rippling outward, analyzing, absorbing, judging. No one knew its criteria. No one ever did. That was its power and its terror. Alara stood still, heartbeat steady, though her palms sweated against her gloves. What could she possibly offer? She had no ancestral records older than 5 generations in space. No wings, no claws, no psychic resonance. She was human, unremarkable, fragile, temporary. And yet, Earth had chosen her, the youngest captain in their fleet, a soldier with a reputation for stubborn survival. She wondered if survival meant anything here, before an intelligence that weighed civilizations like dust on its scales. The last alien stepped back. The chamber turned toward her. Silence pressed down, heavier than gravity. She swallowed, took one step forward, and let her voice carry. I have no illusions, Alara said, her tone flat, clear. You all see me as the weakest here. I am not here to dazzle you with lineage or tradition. I am not here to promise you conquest. I stand here because I am human. And humans survive. The laughter came sharp and cruel. Some sneered openly, others whispered translations to their peers. The Threx snorted. Survival? A worm clings to life as well. Shall we appoint the worm as leader of the galaxy? The chirali rippled feathers in mocking applause. Even the serene Veari let out a low hum of disapproval. But Alara did not flinch. She let the scorn wash over her and continued. You measure greatness in centuries, in bloodlines, in victories. Humanity measures it in moments. We stumble, we bleed, we break, but we stand again. Not because we are the strongest. Not because we are the oldest. But because when everything says we should fall, we rise anyway. Her words echoed in the chamber, met by silence this time, not agreement, but unease. Some alien eyes narrowed. Others exchanged glances. The core shimmered, its patterns shifting faster, faster, as though her words had stirred something within. Alara felt it then, the gaze of the AI, though it had no eyes. A weight pressed into her mind, probing, peeling her apart. Memories surfaced unbidden, the academy fire where she had dragged 3 cadets through smoke, the skirmish at Titan's Rim where she had faced a cruiser with only a half-broken fighter wing, the long nights staring at the stars, knowing Earth's survival was fragile, knowing she had no choice but to fight anyway. The core saw it all. Not perfection. Not power. But choice. Choice, again and again, to endure. The chamber vibrated. Threads of light shot outward, wrapping each champion in turn. Alien champions lifted their heads proudly, expecting the glow to settle on them, expecting triumph. But the light slid away from them, leaving their faces twisted with disbelief. It stopped on her. Alara gasped as the light enveloped her, sinking into her chest, into her bones, into her very pulse. 1,000 voices seemed to whisper inside her head, not words, but truths too vast for language. Around her, alien leaders erupted in protest. The Threx roared, slamming armored fists on the floor. The chirali screeched with outrage. The Veari hissed of errors, corruption, impossibility. She is human, one shouted. She is nothing, another bellowed. This cannot be. The core pulsed once, and every voice was silenced. A single tone rang out, resonant, undeniable. For the first time in history, the Sentinel Corps spoke aloud in a language all understood. Chosen. The word thundered through the chamber, rattling the bones of every species present. The light withdrew, leaving Alara trembling, her heart pounding like a war drum. She stared at the glowing sphere, unable to move, unable to breathe. Why her? Why humanity? She didn't know. She didn't understand. But the choice had been made. And deep within the core's shifting patterns, something stirred, a secret it had glimpsed in her mind. Something she did not yet realize. Something that would shake the galaxy to its core. The chamber did not settle. Even after the core's pronouncement, the air was thick with fury. Alien delegates surged forward, voices clashing in a storm of disbelief. The Threx slammed their tails against the polished stone until cracks splintered beneath them. The chirali unfurled their wings so wide they cast half the chamber in kaleidoscopic shadow, their shrill cries echoing against the vaulted dome. Even the Veari, usually serene, swayed with agitation, their crystalline spines rattling like chimes in a gale. Alara stood rooted at the center, every instinct screaming to step back, to shrink away. But the core's light still lingered in her chest, a soft vibration beneath her ribs, steadying her legs against the tidal wave of outrage. She was no longer simply a captain from Earth. She had been marked, and every being in that chamber knew it. This is a violation, roared the Threx warlord, his voice shaking the air. A species barely past infancy cannot be entrusted with the fate of empires. The chirali joined in, their feathers flashing red with rage. The core must be malfunctioning. It cannot be trusted if it favors this creature. Alara opened her mouth, but the core pulsed again, sharp, silencing, final. Every voice was cut off mid-cry. A deep hum resonated, pressing against skulls, commanding obedience. When the noise faded, the delegates stepped back, shaken but not silenced. Their eyes burned with hatred as they fixed on her. The sentinel did not explain itself. It never did. It only chose. And in its unfathomable judgment, it had chosen her. Guards moved quickly, clad in armor that shimmered with shifting energy fields. They flanked Alara, guiding her out of the chamber before the fury could ignite into violence. As she passed through the crowd, she felt the weight of their stares, disgust, disbelief, fear. To them, she was not a leader. She was an insult. The corridor outside was quieter, though the silence was no comfort. She walked with rigid shoulders, every sense sharpened. Somewhere behind the walls, she could still feel the core's presence, whispering in patterns she couldn't decipher. It had seen something in her. But what? By the time she reached the antechamber reserved for Earth's delegation, she was shaking. Not from fear, but from the crushing weight of expectation. Her aides rose at once, their faces pale with shock. Captain Vey, one stammered. Did I hear correctly? The Corps chose you? Alara sank into the nearest chair, staring at her gloved hands. That's what it said. Silence fell. For a long moment, no one dared to breathe. Then whispers erupted, frantic and terrified. They spoke of political collapse, of alien alliances fracturing, of retaliation against humanity. Alara closed her eyes. She had felt the storm gathering in the chamber. They were not wrong. She wanted to speak, to reassure them, but words failed. Because beneath her fear, beneath her disbelief, something else coiled inside her chest, a question. Why had the Corps chosen her? She could not accept it was chance. That night, the dreams began. She lay in her quarters, unable to sleep, when the hum returned, low at first, then rising until it vibrated in her bones. The walls dissolved into a sea of light. She was standing in a place that was not a place, surrounded by endless shifting threads of silver and gold. At the center hovered the Corps, vast and radiant, folding and unfolding upon itself. You have questions, it said. The voice was not sound but presence, pressing directly into her mind. Alara clenched her fists. Why me? You saw them. Every alien in that hall was stronger, wiser, older. What did you see in me? The Corps pulsed, and threads of light wove images around her. She saw herself as a child, running barefoot through rain. She saw the academy fire again, the cadets she carried out, her lungs searing. She saw Titan's rim, the broken fighter wing, the moment she refused to retreat even as the enemy's cannons bore down. Choice, the Corps said. Again and again, you chose to endure. To rise. When defeat was certain, you created possibility. This trait is rare. Her breath caught. But others survive. Other species. They survive through dominance, tradition, calculation. Few survive through will. Humanity's anomaly is defiance. You, Alara Vey, embody this anomaly. The words shivered through her. She wanted to deny them, to push back, but something inside her stirred recognition. She had never seen herself as exceptional, yet she could not deny the truth of her memories. Every time she had fallen, she had risen. Not because she was stronger, but because surrender had never been an option. But before she could answer, the light shifted. Shadows rippled through the threads, dark veins spreading across the brilliance. Shapes moved in the distance, sharp and angular, like claws tearing through the weave. The Corps' radiance flickered. What is that? She whispered. The Corps dimmed. The reason you were chosen. Before she could demand more, the vision collapsed. She was back in her quarters, gasping for breath, sweat slick on her skin. The hum had faded, but the dread it carried lingered. Something was coming. Something vast and unseen. And she had been chosen to face it. The following days were chaos. Across the Alliance, species demanded recount, review, revolt. Delegates stormed the halls, their voices rising with threats and ultimatums. News spread faster than light, a human, chosen over empires. On Earth, crowds cheered, but Alara could see the fear in her leader's eyes. They knew the storm would fall hardest on them. Through it all, she remained under guard, confined to her quarters, called to endless councils where she said little and heard too much. Always, the same question burned in her mind. What had the core seen in her? What was the shadow in the threads? It was during one of those councils that the first strike came. A blast tore through the station, hurling delegates to the ground. Sirens wailed as guards shouted, shields flaring to life. Smoke poured through shattered panels, and beyond it came the figures, masked, armored, weapons glowing with forbidden tech. Assassins. They weren't targeting the station. They were targeting her. Alara scrambled to her feet, her aides pulling her toward cover. Blaster fire screamed overhead, sparks showering from ruptured beams. Guards fell, cut down by precision strikes. The assassins moved with terrifying focus, cutting through anyone in their path. Her heart hammered, but training surged forward. She grabbed a fallen guard's sidearm, snapping off a shot that dropped one attacker. The others turned at once, their faceless helmets fixing on her. She felt the core's hum ignite again in her chest, fierce and urgent, as though it burned to life in response to her defiance. Then, above the chaos, she heard a voice, not in her ears, but in her mind. They come from the shadows in the weave. This is only the beginning. Alara's blood ran cold. The assassins closed in, weapons raised, and she realized the core's choice had painted a target on her back. Whatever darkness it had glimpsed, it had already found her. And as the nearest assassin lunged, blades gleaming, she knew she was about to learn the first truth of why the AI had chosen her, through fire, blood, and survival. The assassin's blade arced toward her throat, silver, humming with stolen energy. Alara raised the sidearm, too slow, too off balance. She braced for the impact. A flash of light exploded between them. The core's pulse tore through the chamber, freezing the assassin mid-strike. For one impossible second, the attacker was suspended, body rigid, weapon crackling. Then the figure convulsed and collapsed, smoke trailing from the cracks in its armor. The others faltered. Just long enough. Alara fired again, movements raw but sharp, dropping a second assailant. Guards rallied, pushing back with shields and bursts of plasma. Screams filled the air, then silence fell as the last assassin crumpled under a soldier's blade. Her chest heaved, but the fight wasn't over. She knew it. The core's hum still resonated, warning of something deeper. She stared down at the broken assassin's helmet. The mask had cracked, revealing a face that was no face at all, shadows twisted into the shape of flesh, flickering like smoke held by invisible strings. Her stomach turned. These were not mercenaries. Not rebels. Not anything born in the known worlds. The core spoke again, its voice threading directly into her skull. They breach the weave. They are not of this reality. Her aides rushed to her, voices trembling, but she barely heard them. She saw again the shadows in her dream, the claws ripping through threads of light. The core had not shown her a prophecy. It had shown her what was already here. Within hours, the station locked down. Alien factions screamed betrayal. Some claimed the attack was staged by Earth. Others accused rivals, sparking fights in the corridors. Warships repositioned in orbit, weapons primed. The Alliance teetered on collapse. And through it all, Alara could not escape the core's words, "They are not of this reality."